So today we're going to talk about your ankle and focus on some mobility drills you can do for your ankle. And in swimming, ankle mobility is one of the key components to propulsion during your stroke. So there's actually a study, I did my master's at George Washington University, and they actually did a study on elite level swimmers. And the percentage of propulsion that comes from your ankle joint and below, so think your foot, is upwards of 75 to 90%. And that's a huge number. So what that means is if you're super tight in your ankle, you're basically just carrying a weight at the bottom part of your body instead of using that whip action through the ankle to help you with propulsion and moving forward. So ankle tension affects knees. It can cause knee pain if your ankles are super tight, but it also really affects the propulsion and effectiveness of your kick. And it's such a small area for looking at it, it's just a small portion of your body, but it plays a huge role in that propulsion component. So think about your ability to move in the direction you want to go. So we want to make sure we're prepared with that in our training. So first thing you're going to do, you're down on your back. As always, when we're in this position on the ground, I always want you to think about tucking your tailbone to press your low back into the ground. If we can basically slide a hand underneath, we're just not in the best possible position. So make sure you tuck your tailbone, press that low back into the ground. You're going to lift one leg up and hold right behind the knee. This is just going to work through your active range of motion. So all I want you to do is try to drive your toe towards your knee and then your toe away from your knee. So you're pulling the toe towards your knee, pushing the toe away from your knee. And you're going to complete 10 repetitions of this on each side. So we're going toe toward and then press away. Back and forth, trying to cover as much range of motion as you can. And you're working your ankle through all these different ranges. After you complete 10 repetitions of this forward-backwards motion, you're going to go into a circle. So you're going to draw as big of a circle as you can with your ankle. Your knee should stay still. And so you're going to go clockwise, 10 circles, drawing as big of a circle as you can with your toes. And then 10 counterclockwise circles as well, drawing that nice big circle with your toes. So we've got forward, backwards for 10, and then 10 each direction on the circles. So you're working through that. I want you to complete that on each side, and then just listen to me as I talk. So, again, your ankle plays a huge role in your kick. Ankles also get really tight due to the footwear that you have on and also sitting. Okay, so unfortunately, if you go to class right now, you're kind of going through a little bit of a quarantine phase. If you're on campus, you're sitting a lot. That can really start tightening things up. Also, footwear. A lot of shoes out there have an elevated heel. So you're basically in this elevated heel position all day long when you have shoes on. Luckily, as swimmers, we're out of our shoes a lot more often than the general public. But if your shoe has a really big cushion, a really big elevated heel, it can start to tighten up your ankle over time. So being able to get out of your shoes as much as possible is really critical. So again, just dropping back down, we'll talk about this one more time. One foot up, other leg can be straight or slightly bent, not really worried about what the other leg's doing, more worried about the lower back pressed to the ground. Drawing the toe towards your knee, pressing the toe away from your knee. Going back and forth, and then we have the circles each direction. And you should try to work through as much range as you can when you're doing this exercise. One thing you might feel, if you're like me, my ankles crack a little bit. Like I'll get a little bit of cracking in there after especially a long period of inactivity, or if it's early in the morning, you might notice you get out of bed and all of a sudden it feels like your ankles just kind of crack all over the place. That could be a number of things. The most common thing in the ankle is just honestly a little bit of gas buildup that happens. And then when you start to move, it almost just presses that gas buildup out of all those little joints that are present in your foot and around your ankle. So if there's no pain and you're kind of having that crackling sensation, not too worried about it. But if there is pain associated with that, then definitely go see an athletic trainer and work through that injury or whatever might be happening there so we can figure out what's going on and help correct that. So again, a little bit of cracking, popping is kind of just happens. It could be because of gas buildup. It could be a longer period of inactivity. But if it's something that's causing pain, we want to always be able to look at that and make some corrections. Okay? The next one, you're going to be on your knee. So you got one knee up, one foot up. Okay? You can either sit back on your heel to start if you want, or you can stay up in a slightly elevated position. I want you to really anchor this heel to the ground. So you're holding your heel down with your hands. And then I want that knee coming out over the toes as far as you can without the heel coming off the ground, and back. Knee over the toe as far as you can without the heel coming off the ground, and back. And we're going to add about a 2-second pause in this knee over the toe position, and back. Okay, so you'll feel a light stretch depending on how tight your ankle is. You might not feel anything. That's okay. Again, that kind of goes back to what we talked about in one of the earlier presentations. If you have the range of motion, we want to keep it. So if you're not feeling a stretch or anything, that's good. We just want to make sure that we don't lose this range of motion over time. So you're going 10 on each side, pausing for about 2 seconds as far as you can go forward without your heel coming off the ground. One thing, if you're doing this and you can't even really get your knee over your toe without your heel coming off the ground, you're in line for some potential knee pain. So we want to make sure that ankle has some more range of motion. If you can get about 3 inches, is kind of the number I look at, of your knee over the toe, and yeah, we're kind of eyeballing it here, but you can also go up next to a wall and kind of use that as a measure. But if you can get about 3 inches of your knee over your toe, you're in a really good spot to not have any sort of pain or restriction due to ankle mobility. So we're going 10 on each side, 2-second pause, and really think about keeping your heel down on the ground. Okay, you can also do this in a standing position, really pushing your foot into the ground without your hands holding, but I like to do this in a kneeling position to start. Okay, so just finishing out those 10 on each side. And then the last one, we're going to go into a fuller range of motion. So you're going to hinge down almost like you're in a swimming start. Okay? Hinging down like you're in a swimming start. I want you to rock that toe, trying to drive it towards your knee. And then you're coming up onto the ball of your foot, lifting your heel off the ground. So you're rocking back, toe toward knee, pressing, heel off the ground. And we're just going back and forth here. 1 repetition is the toe lift and the heel lift. You guessed it, 10 on each side. So lift the toe, rocking forward, and you can see I'm not just doing this. I'm not just rocking all over the place. It's a really slow, controlled rock, trying to lift that toe as much as I can, then lift the heel as much as you can. Lifting the toe, lifting the heel, and we're going through 10 each side. So that staggered hinge position, that gets a little bit specific to your swimming start. Okay, it also helps you work on that feeling of pressing off the block as you're going to go into your start. We're not going to rock back onto our heel like that off the start, but we're definitely going to go into that toe press, that ball of the foot press, to get off the block with some power and some force. And now we're getting active, so you can feel your calf, the back of your leg starting to engage. You might feel your hamstring stretch a little bit. All of that's connected back there, and we want to make sure it's nice and elastic as we go through this movement. So you're just going 10 on each side, nice controlled rock, and think about your back as well. So if you're really curling over and really rounding, I want you to try to straighten out your back a little bit more. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. A little bit of rounding is okay, but let's control it. We don't want to be out of control with that. Good, and you're just rocking back nice and steady through this motion. Okay, so those are the 3 movements that we do for the ankle, or something you can do for your ankle. And again, huge part of your kick, big part of your kick. So if you have a really tight ankle, honestly, you're pretty much strapping weights to your body when you try to swim. If you have a really mobile ankle, you can control that mobility. You have a lot more propulsion in your favor as you're trying to move forward.